Project Mockingbird, the CIA's Symphony of Silence, 1950s-1970s. In the smoky back rooms of post-war Washington, a new kind of war was taking shape. Not fought with guns or bombs, but with words, ink, and ideas. The Cold War wasn't just about nuclear arsenals or spy games in Berlin. It was a war for the mind. And at its center stood a covert operation so vast, so insidious that it changed the very nature of journalism. Project Mockingbird. It began quietly in the early 1950s, under the direction of Allen Dulles, the cunning architect of modern American intelligence. His vision was simple but chilling, to ensure that no narrative unfavorable to U.S. interests would ever take root. To achieve that, the CIA built a secret network of influence across the world's media landscape. Journalists, editors, producers, and publishers became unwitting instruments in a campaign of psychological warfare. Through subtle manipulation and well-placed partnerships, the CIA recruited some of the most respected names in journalism. Pulitzer-winning correspondents, foreign bureau chiefs, and even television anchors found themselves entangled, some knowingly, others not, in an invisible web of control. Newsrooms that once stood as beacons of truth became silent accomplices to a carefully orchestrated deception. At its peak, Project Mockingbird reportedly involved over 400 journalists and media outlets, both domestic and international. Newspapers like the New York Times, Time magazine, and Newsweek, and broadcasters like CBS and Reuters, were all touched by the operation's reach. The goal wasn't to fabricate outright lies. It was far more sophisticated. It was about framing the truth, selecting which facts mattered and silencing the ones that didn't. Through this invisible symphony, the CIA controlled global narratives. During coups in Latin America, wars in Southeast Asia, and revolutions in the Middle East, American audiences were fed stories that painted the U.S. as the hero and its enemies as villains. Abroad, anti-communist propaganda was carefully seeded to destabilize foreign governments. In an era when people believed what they read in the paper, the manipulation was almost absolute. But beneath the surface, a few cracks began to show. Investigative journalists, the rare ones untouched by the CIA's web, started to notice unusual coincidences. Foreign stories would appear in multiple newspapers with identical language. Sensitive leaks would disappear overnight. Dissenting voices were labeled un-American. Something was deeply wrong. It wasn't until the 1970s that the veil was finally lifted. Following the Watergate scandal, the Church Committee hearings exposed a series of illegal and unethical CIA operations, from mind control experiments, MK-Ultra, to global assassinations. Among them surfaced the chilling details of the agency's media control efforts. The revelation was explosive. Americans learned that the very press they trusted had been infiltrated. Their morning headlines and evening broadcasts shaped not by free journalism, but by covert influence. The phrase Operation Mockingbird entered the public lexicon as a symbol of media betrayal and manipulation. But even after exposure, the full truth never surfaced. The CIA denied the existence of Project Mockingbird as an official operation, claiming it was merely a handful of journalists working independently. Yet declassified documents and former agents told a darker story. The program had evolved, its methods refined, its objectives buried under layers of bureaucracy. By the late 20th century, the tools had changed. The television screen replaced the newspaper, and later, the internet became the new battlefield. But the essence of Mockingbird lived on. Media consolidation, political bias, and disinformation campaigns became the modern echo of that Cold War experiment. Today, as social media algorithms decide what we see and hear, the ghost of Project Mockingbird still whispers through our feeds. The same psychological warfare, the shaping of perception, the manufacturing of consent, continues hidden beneath a new layer of digital sophistication. The story of Project Mockingbird isn't just about espionage, it's about trust. It's a reminder that truth can be weaponized, that freedom of information is fragile, and that the most powerful form of control is not physical, it's mental. When you control the story, you control the people. And somewhere deep within the archives of Langley, behind blacked out pages and sealed documents, lies the blueprint of how the truth itself became a tool of power.